Psalm 2, taken from the New American Bible. Why do the nations protest and the peoples grumble in vain? Kings on earth rise up and princes plot together against the Lord and his anointed. Let us break their shackles and cast off their chains. The one enthroned in heaven laughs. The Lord derides them, then speaks to them in anger, terrifies them in wrath. I myself have installed my king on Zion, my holy mountain. I will proclaim the decree of the Lord, who said to me, You are my son. Today I am your father. Only ask it of me, and I will make your inheritance the nations, your possession the ends of the earth. With an iron rod you shall shepherd them. Like a clay pot you will shatter them. And now, kings, give heed. Take warning, rulers on earth. Serve the Lord with fear. With trembling, bow down in homage, lest God be angry and you perish from the way in a sudden blaze of anger. Happy are all who take refuge in God. A small note to add to this. In this psalm, many commentators in the past show the reference to Christ, the incarnate Word, who here in the seventh verse in this New American Bible version, it says, You are my son. Today I am your father. Only ask it of me, and I will make your inheritance the nations. So this conflict between, in reference to what we said about the first psalm, the righteous and the unrighteous, St. Augustine calls this the city of man and the city of God. They both are active at the same time until the end of the world. God works secretly in men's hearts, faith and virtues, and bearing witness to others through miracles. His church and transmitting divine revelation throughout history. But also there's the city of man, which we're all part of in one way or another, because we have to make a living and so on. And sometimes the city of man doesn't always live by the same rules that are established through divine revelation. So this is why we read here on this psalm, the first three verses, it says, Why do the nations protest and the peoples grumble in vain? And it gives an example. Kings on earth rise up and princes plot together against the Lord and his anointed. So basically what we see is sometimes people in the world who either don't practice faith or dissent from faith, or have never sought to live in faith, they will find fault with those who are trying to live a pleasing life before God. It could be through political conflict, values in the world that are not held equally on both sides. One may value, you know, more economic emphasis on growth and profits, fortune, whereas the other is satisfied with what they need to continue their life in a happy existence, more existential, but at the same time striving to be pleasing to God in their own way. So there's this conflict that's has been since the fall of man in the Garden, of Eden. So this is real. This is a real conflict that we sometimes see very vividly in our daily existence. In Psalm 3, it kind of gives you the attitude of what this city of man, the underlying current attitude, person that does not submit to the divine will, they feel bound, and they ask, "Let us break their shackles and cast off their chains." So, in other words, the person that wants to live a righteous life, they will do things and practice certain ways of living, which seems to inhibit those who want to live a progressive, futuristic life. Planning, they're doing very good things, but it may not fall within the conjunctions of the divine will. And Saint Francis de Sales, he speaks about this concurrence of the divine will with our own will. This is where our happiness will shine through. But other times, if we don't concur with God's will, this is where we find not being at peace. This is true peace. We're talking about a true peace that Christ gave. My peace I give you, my peace I leave with you, not as the world gives do I give to you, Jesus says. But here the world seeks a peace outside of the gospel message. And it feels that those who try to live the gospel message shackle them, limit them to what they want to do. So this is a few reflections here on Psalm 2. Just in closing, verse 11 kind of sums up the attitude that all of us striving to be pleasing to God could take, which keeps us within our limitations. Like Isaiah says, what the Lord asks of us, to live justly, to love tenderly, and to walk humbly with God. So the psalmist says, "Serve the Lord with fear, with trembling, bow down in homage, lest God be angry and you perish from the way in a sudden blaze of anger. Happy are all who take refuge in God." This anger of God, it can be understood in different ways, but The person outside of God's will um, looks at the imposition of God working within him, and when they say no to God, they think they're angry, but it's God trying to bring them into conformity with His own will. But He won't take their freedom from them. On the other hand, the person living within God's will and seeking to grow daily in fidelity to God and the community of the faithful, um, when they fall outside of God's will, or they fall, like the scripture says, the just man falls 7 times a day. Um, they fear that God will. They don't want to displease God. That's where the true fear of the Lord is. Their love for God over is over and above the fearing retribution from God. It's one thing to fear God in with servile fear, but another to fear God as a son, as a daughter, adopted children. Just like a good child, a child that wants to conform to his parents' will, just is obedient and trusts their parents will take care of them. Whereas a naughty child, a child that wants to uh, sneak out and do things on their own behind their parents' back, um, then that child needs discipline, um, and that child needs tension from their parents to save them from the wrong path they may be taking. So, anyway, just a few reflections, and I thank you very much.